Give the ball to Zonovan Knight. Give it to him three times straight.
And by the way, Zonovan Knight, what a find he is. I mean, could you?
How he went on draft is very weird.
It's what a find he is. What are they going to do next year? You've got Breece Hall coming back. You have Michael Carter that's hurt right now. You have Bam Knight now. And now you have James Robinson, which, by the way, you gave up a 6th-round draft pick. You have control of 4 great running backs. You can only keep 3. I keep Bam, honestly. I would trade James Robinson if he plays great for the rest of the season and moves into the playoffs and plays well. I trade James White.
Look at James Robinson this week. He only played 11% of the snaps. They got 4 carries. So I'm impressed. If for fantasy out there, if you have Zonovan Knight, and who knows if Michael Carter comes back this week or not, but boy, you're just plugging him into your lineup and you're loving it. I mean, 16 points in a PPR last week. That's outstanding for a kid off the waiver wire.
I drafted Michael Carter in a lot of my leagues this year. So when Robinson was like randomly inactive, which I didn't understand, by the way, I was like, all right, this could be good. And here comes Zonovan Knight getting like 12 touches and all those receptions too. And
I scooped Ty Johnson. I didn't even know Bam Knight was a figment of anyone's imagination. So I'm like, oh man, I'm going to scoop up Ty Johnson here. And Ty Johnson's okay. He gets a little bit of passing down work, but it's the Zonovan Knight show. And who knows? Maybe they'll keep Carter out another week. You just keep your eyes on that for fantasy if you've got Carter.
I think
there's no reason to rush him back.
I think they already know who their starting running back is, even when Carter comes back. It's going to be Bam.
They want to get these kids looks. There's a reason they had James Robinson inactive. They want to get some looks for this kid. They like him.
They like him. And you want to know something? I think in the long run, in the offseason, they could trade one of these guys off. If they want to trade, Bam, they could get something back pretty good for him. They can get a 3rd-round draft pick back for Bam if he's playing like this. I don't think they move him. I think Breece Hall and him. I don't think Michael Carter is the future of this team. I like Michael Carter. I think he's a good player. I think there's a lot of things about him that really stick out to me, that he kind of disappears in games. He's a leader, and I know the Jets like him as a leader, but Bam Knight has to see looks. He really does. He's too good. He really is. And Breece Hall, you have 2 pounders, and I think Breece Hall he's a super.
I don't think Zonovan Knight sees the field next year if Breece Hall's healthy. Breece
really?
Hall's that good.
Really? I do.
Yeah, I mean, he is. It's it's like having LaDainian Tomlinson back then.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to compare him to that. Yeah, but I mean, he's that type of a player where you don't need to take him off the field. But you got to spell. It's the NFL. You always got to have a good backup. But yeah, he's a great number 2 to have. And I could see what you mean about Carter. You can move on from him and maybe you trade him. But the problem, nobody gives you anything for running backs these days. They're a dime a dozen. Yeah. Look, you could find Zonovan Knight off the scrap heap and plug him in, and now he looks like a world beater.
Well, the other thing, too, is they've tried to adapt it to a lot like the 49ers system, too, with Mike LaFleur coming over there. But they've also done the quote-unquote things where they get too cute with their running backs sometimes, too. And being they're not Kyle Shanahan and not that offensive line, it's going to make it harder to do that on a consistent basis because they do it very well. And I'm not saying Saleh's a bad coach, but again, offense is Kyle Shanahan's specialty, and he can get these random running backs to break out at any time when you least expect it. So I think they're trying too much of that.
Robert Saleh is 7-5 in his second season with the New York Jets. He's a pretty good coach. Okay, I think that tells you that he's a pretty good coach, and he knows that this team could be a winning team. This is the youngest Jet team we've seen, and they have a winning mentality. These guys believe that they can win. And when you have weapons, when was the last time you can remember the Jets had a weapon like Garrett Wilson? I mean,
Lavernius Coles.
Lavernius Coles wasn't even a guy that the Jets really even drafted.
Oh yeah, Washington drafted him.
Yeah, right. So did
the Jets draft Keyshawn Johnson?
Yes, Keyshawn Johnson. And by the way, he didn't. His best years weren't even with the Jets; they were with Tampa. Yeah, so it was really Santana Moss, if you remember the last decent.
Oh, he was a good player.
Yeah, the decent wide receiver.
Another one that was with Washington too.
Yeah, but this kid. This kid's the real deal. I mean, this kid could end up with 7-8 touchdowns. He has 4 right now. He has a chance to win. He has 790 yards. He's going to break 1,000 yards in the next 2 weeks. I mean, how many wide receivers in this draft class besides the kid from Atlanta who really – and he can't stay healthy, so he's not going to win it. And Breece Hall – I love the kid from Seattle. Kenneth Walker.
He's hurt now too.
Yeah. And I know it's killing me right now. So it could hurt me.
I got to set my waivers after we're done talking here. I
Which
don't know
random Seahawks running back you got to pick up?
Yeah, I don't know. I might not pick up any. I think it's just a disaster in Seattle.
I've usually avoided Seahawks skill players since Marshawn Lynch, really, because of that. They're always they get 35 points one week and then they'll get 3.
Yeah, people ask all the time, oh, who's the pickup in Seattle? I don't know. And maybe the answer is nobody. It might be a committee, and they could pull somebody off the street tomorrow. And
maybe Geno Smith will start at
running back. Is Murray available in any of your leagues?
Who, Latavius Murray?
Yeah, I think he could be a nice pickup for this week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Latavius Murray is available in your league, I mean, they're trying to get Mike Boone a little bit work in now that he's off the IR for the Broncos. But to be honest, I don't want anything to do with that offense. That offense is
horrible.
So putrid in Denver. It's abominable. I can't believe that they've got to pay Russell Wilson for the next, 5-6 years, and they gave up draft capital to do so. Oh my God!
Seattle is picking 3rd if the season were to end today. Imagine them end up with Will Anderson and make the playoffs.
Yes. They knew exactly what they were doing in Seattle. They're like, number one, nobody likes Russ in this locker room, so we'll be glad to get rid of him. They knew he was a declining asset, and the Broncos traded for him like he was some 24-year-old. People can cry all they want about, and I will never in a million years defend Deshaun Watson for his off-the-field stuff. Right. I just want to talk on-the-field football. Deshaun Watson is a young, ascending superstar quarterback, right? That's a guy you give a long-term deal to, and that's what they did. Again, there's a whole nother show about the other stuff. But you don't do that for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is on the back 9 of his career. Why are you giving him a 5-6 year extension and paying him all this dough and giving away draft capital? Denver, what are you doing? If you were talking about a GM who should get fired, it should be Denver's.
Oh, absolutely.
George Patton, yeah.
As everybody knows, we are talking to Pro Football Focus, Sirius XM Fantasy Football Radio Show host Brian Drake. Fantastic takes for Brian Drake, as always. But, Brian, you look at right now the New York Giants, and we sit here today in the NFC East. It could go back and forth. Washington's winning. They just got a tie with the Giants. By the way, the Giants should have won that game. I have no idea what happened in the fourth quarter. They looked horrible and putrid. And Daniel Jones actually had his best game. I thought he played his best game. It wasn't Daniel Jones's fault that they lost that game, or they tied that game, which is practically a loss.
Jason Garrett drugged Brian Dable, and all of a sudden his clock management strategy came in.
I don't know what's going to happen in this division, but I believe 3 out of the 4 teams is going to make the playoffs. It's crazy. And
sure.
And who knows? Maybe all of the teams in that division make the playoffs. How bad the NFC is. I mean, Washington's starting to play good football. Who would have thought that Tyler Heineke would be the savior of that organization? It's crazy. What are your thoughts?
He stinks too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, for Giants fans, and I've lived through this before, having a tie, people go, oh my God, I can't believe we tied. Having a tie in the NFL is not the worst thing in the world. Ties are better than losses because when you look, how does that playoff bracket fall? It goes by wins and losses. So if you only have, right now, the New York Giants only have 4 losses, they're ahead of all the 5 loss teams, right? So it's not the worst thing in the world, Giants fans. Would you have rather won? Yes, but the tie could help you down the road.
I also think it
maintain a seed.
I also think it actually helps nullify this too. It takes away the head-to-head with Seattle if that came down to it too. So rather than being 10-7 or 9-8 or whatever they would have been at the end of the year, they would be 9-7.
So the Giants right now, they're the 6th seed. If the season ended today, and if they would have lost that game, that Seattle would probably jump them, right?
Seattle would definitely jump them, because Seattle has head-to-head, so they'd both be 7-5, right? And then Washington would be 8-4, so they would be in the 6th spot.
Yeah. So, but with the Giants, I mean, I'm no Daniel Jones fan. He's showing some strides for fantasy. This is 2 of the last 3 weeks that he's a top 10 scorer. So, congratulations if you're streaming Daniel Jones. But the Giants, they don't have any wide receivers. I mean, this isn't.
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, they don't have any players. It's Saquon Barkley, and Saquon Barkley, we know what he is. He's going to do 2-yard gain, 1-yard gain, 2-yard gain, 1-yard gain, 70-yard gain. That's who Saquon Barkley is, right? And it's never changed. It's the same all the time. He never really comes off the field, and it's just, hey, he's great for fantasy. But, I mean, if you're looking at trying to pick up anybody else from the New York Giants, really it just comes down to Darius Slayton. And I'll be honest, I've been starting Darius Slayton since October in a 14-team league. So he's not bad. If you're desperate for a player, you can stream Darius Slayton. Richie James, if you're in a super deep league. And I want to ask you guys about Daniel Bellinger.
I like him.
Daniel Bellinger's a kid who, had the eye injury and it put him out for a while. But if you can come out and get, 6 targets in an offense desperate for passing options, I mean, everybody needs a tight end. Unless you've got Kelsey or Kittle, you need a tight end in fantasy football. So keep an eye on Daniel Bellinger. He was out there last week. He participated in 83% of the Giants' routes at 18% target share, which was better than Richie James. So
thank God.
Keep an eye on Daniel Bellinger.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Both my quarterbacks are on bye weeks, of course. Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields are on bye week. So it's been very frustrating to me. Jared Goff, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill. Who would you go with as you started this week?
You know what? Those aren't bad options. They're not bad options at all. And you could even go to the waiver wire for Tyler Huntley of the Baltimore Ravens, because he's going to come in and fill in for Lamar. And he's shown that he can throw the ball. He can put up over 250 yards. He can run the football just like Lamar. He's a great backup for that system because he can do exactly what Lamar does. So that's kind of a low-end option if you're like, hey, I'm desperate, I don't have anybody else.
Who would you go with? Would you go
Huntley? Not the worst option in the world. Other than that, I like Jared Goff. I think that's a good play. You look at him now, he's got Amon-Ra St. Brown is a stud. Everybody kind of poo-pooed him after last year. That, because Swift was hurt, Hockenson was hurt. Well, it shows this year, that Jared Goff Amon-Ra St. Brown is a really good top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
Well, Swift is still hurt, and Hockenson got traded, so.
Well, yeah, but no, Swift's back. Swift played.
Now he is, but it took him a while.
Right, and they got DJ Chark. They got Jamison Williams, their first-round pick. He's back playing, so he's got weapons to throw the ball to. He doesn't have a tight end, but great, now they can get the ball to Swift more. Jamison Williams leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns, so I wouldn't be against starting. Derek Carr scares the crap out of me because he never wants to push the ball down the field. He only really throws the ball down the field if the guy's wide open. Look at those highlights last week to Devontae Adams. Every play is either a trick play or something. The defender fell down, something's going on, and he's wide open. And it's the other reason you can't stream a defense against the Raiders. It's because he always just throws the ball away. He goes back, that internal clock goes off, 1, 2, nobody's here, boom, he just throws it out of bounds. The guy rarely gets sacked. So those would be my 2 plays. I'd say Goff, and then I'd go to the waiver wire for Huntley.
Well, I'm excited. J.K. Dobbins will be back next week, so I could have him for the playoffs.
God only knows with that guy. He'll come after you on Twitter if you say something bad about him, too.
Don't worry. They have the Lord and Savior Kenyon Drake to help out.
That's another one that just befuddles
I was high on him last year, and I botched it. Now he's good this year.
Gus Edwards. I do a little segment on my series show called Hate the Drake. I talk about all the guys that let you down. And one of the guys on there was Gus Edwards, right? So we thought he was pulling away from Kenyon Drake after what he did in week 12. Now he comes out week 13 and he plays 25% of the snaps. Kenyon Drake plays 48. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, Lamar goes out. You should be leaning on Gus. But no, they go back to, Kenyon Drake. And like you said, we could get J.K. Dobbins back now. So, geez Louise, it's a mess.
You have to defend your namesake.
Yes.
Drakes have to stand together. By the way,
my brother from another mother, Kenyon Drake.
By the way, it's funny. My cousin, we have a family league, 12-team league, and he's a Dolphins fan, and he drafted Kenyon Drake in 2019, and he got traded to the Cardinals, and he actually won the league. He had a lot of other reasons why. He had Lamar Jackson that year and an MVP year and a bunch of other things, but it's like I joke to him all the time. He wouldn't have won if he didn't get traded to Arizona.
Hey, that's you talk about a guy going to Arizona. How about James Conner? This guy might be one of the most useful running backs for fantasy in the NFL. His role is unchallenged. He has nobody coming in. It's very much like Saquon Barkley. He gets all the passing down work. He gets all the rushing work. He's got all the goal line work. So it's just, unless something falls apart, I mean, you can get Kyler running a ball in, but you can get that in New York with Daniel Jones. So I don't know if you still have a trade deadline in your league, but trying to acquire James Conner wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either, because now their offense is opening up. They got Hollywood Brown back.
Yeah, I think they all passed for my leagues at this point. But
I'm only you never know. Some of these
leagues
my four leagues,
Some guys, of my 4 leagues, I'm only in 2 of them, really.
I'm the commissioner of my big league, all my buddies from home and my fraternity and everything. Our trade deadline was like 2 weeks ago. Like, what are we doing?
Wow,
Like,
really?
make it as far out as possible. Make it so we can go out, the night before Thanksgiving and get guys drunk and make them make bad trades. That's what fantasy's all about, is screwing over your friends and family.
I'm kind of contemplating dropping Damian Harris. He hasn't done anything for me this year, really. He's been a bust. And being that he's lost his number one job, Stevenson is now the number one guy. Do I trust that Damon Harris? And I need to bring in a quarterback. I don't want to drop Aaron Rodgers. I don't want to drop Justin Fields, because I think those guys will play a big part, an intricate part if I want to win in the playoffs. And I need to bring in a quarterback this week. So I'm trying to contemplate, who do I drop?
I mean, it's a one quarterback league.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be afraid to drop Aaron Rodgers.
Really?
And I say this because you've got Justin Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers is Mr. 250 and 2. That's what he does. Look at his stats for the whole year. He's going to throw you between 225 and 250. I don't even have his stats pulled up in front of me. I can tell you that, I know it.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to throw between 200 and 250. It's going to be a touchdown or two. He's never going to throw for 350 anymore. He's not putting up the 3-4 touchdown games. And once that team's out of contention, they're going to sit his ass. They're going to play Love. That's exactly. I mean, they're talking about it already.
Jordan Love,
so
league winner,
the fantasy playoffs, and Jordan Love's in there, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do? You're going to play Fields. You're never going to play Rodgers over Fields because the upside's too great.
Jordan Love, league winner, you think potentially, or too early?
No, I mean, I think the Eagles, that's the game he came in against Philadelphia.
Right.
There's no tape on him, so it's like we don't know anything about this guy. Like when Mike White came in, and he's setting the world on fire. Teams have tape on him for a week. Oh, what happens? He throws 2 interceptions and no touchdowns.